Now you have a stage with an actor, no surrounding sets, no props, very little in terms of like how he's or she is dressed. This theater idea allows the audience to basically put themselves as much as they possibly can into the emptiness of that space. Why is this an attractive idea? Why is it a powerful idea? Because this is literally how we fill our empty stage in life. What I want to talk to you about is my experience with what I call the black space. The black space is a place that I have seen ever since I can remember dreaming. I've seen it specifically in instances where I was being taught something or when I was being woken up. Like one of the experiences that I had when I was young, like I was trying to pull an all-nighter to get my assignment in on time. And I went upstairs to go get some extra paper to print things out. I saw my bed, and having not really slept for about 24 hours at this point, I just thought maybe I would lie down for a second. I passed out. When I was dreaming, I was in the black space, and I remember it was exactly like this concept of this empty black stage. Almost like the light that you shoot in a scene, like this one right now, but none of the color. It was just all black everywhere. And the only thing that was really visible, the only thing you could really see, were the bodies. My friend said, hey, let's go up to the top of these stairs. When we got up to the top of the stairs, he said, you should try to balance on top of that door. No, trust me, you can do it, you can do it. All right, okay, so I got up on top of the door and I was trying to balance, and I slipped, and I fell. I remembered that I wasn't supposed to be sleeping. And I got up and I went downstairs and continued writing my essay. The point of that was obviously to wake me up, but it also showed me something I've seen several other times in my own life experience. This idea of the black space. The next time I can really remember was only after my Kundalini experience. It was being demonstrated to me several different times to remain close to my own energy, not really allow outside interferences to mislead me or to abuse my kind nature. In this experience, once again, I was in the black space, and there was only the very, very slightest hint of like a piece of wood over an entrance to a cavern. And this guy, he said, come on, let's go. I was like, okay, because at the time I was like very, just completely wide open to everything and everyone. And so I followed him into this cave, and the minute I stepped foot inside there, I could feel this like, almost like threatening, nasty kind of like feeling inside of there. I was like, oh shit. And then I felt trapped inside there. In the middle of this experience, not knowing what to do, suddenly the words came to me. Words that seemed to me like almost overly religious in a sense. All of a sudden, I felt myself saying, the light of Christ consciousness protect me. And then I was blasted up and out of the cave, and I ended up in this kind of like swirling sort of like place. And then I slowly started to wake up from there. I've seen this space many different times in dreams. I always thought it was so unusual that in these particular dreams where I was in the black space, there was so very little like that was actually in the dream. It was just almost like an empty black void in a sense, where there was just hints, maybe like the glint of like a floor if it was needed. I could always see bodies, but they almost seemed like pale, kind of like shadowy sort of. So you could see what you needed to, but it was almost like all the color was like removed from it. In this place, I've interacted with Sarah like a number of different times, in a number of different ways, in a number of different scenarios. But what I didn't expect was like the real physicality of this place. But this is where things kind of take like a turn for the bizarre. Kundalini is a powerful experience. If you have this experience in your life in any way, shape, or form, no matter to the degree in which you are having this experience, you are in touch with something that transcends all of this. Like, it transcends what you define, physically speaking, from a 3D kind of reality as what physical reality actually is. It's not like what you think it is. It is extremely, extremely different than the stuff that seems so physical and so real. This force essentially is like energy that rises and rises inside of you. And when you finally accept that energy to rise up inside of you, you experience life in an almost like dream-like way. It literally redefines the language you already have preset and programmed into you from your parents, from friends, from social media. That kind of like preset language exists at a place that's at a certain set point. In the Kundalini experience, that set point can shift, can alter, it can open to a position that allows you to dislodge even from what you have spent your entire life developing as your personal identity. You can know yourself as something not known to you previously to this experience. I truly believe this is where that statement comes. Those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't know. The secret, in a sense, contains itself because it simply can't be discussed with anyone except those people who know it. So in this profound understanding of like a secret that everyone seems to be keeping from themselves, I stayed in like as much of a feeling of a flow as I possibly could. And being in that state of being, it reconfigures every program, every mindset that you have at that set point that thinks about things in a particular style, in a particular way, and allows it to open in a way you're like, wow, there is like no such thing as that kind of like story that everybody on this stage is kind of play acting like it is. In this state of being, that kind of secret that I felt I knew was so personal to myself that there was nothing I could broach in terms of like my preset understanding to converse with others in a way that I felt that they could understand what I was experiencing. But I tried my best. And one friend in particular, he invited me over to his house one day. I decided to go because I was just like in the flow, and I just felt like I was always open to the next adventure, whatever it happened to be. We hung out in his basement, and I started to talk about the same kind of things I'm talking to you about. His brother came to me at one point, almost like in a knowing kind of way, and he dropped this book in my lap. And I was like, okay. So I picked it up, and I looked at it, and I was struck by how different the production, the publication of the book actually was from normal like books that I had ever seen before. I'd never really seen a book like this before, and he just happened to have it. And so I did what I was doing at that time a lot. I would open books to random places, and whatever you choose, no matter how random it might seem to you, literally contains some kind of message in a kind of physical configuration that reflects something back to you that you would need to learn or to hear. And so I did that with this book. I put my hands in the center of it, and I opened it up randomly to a certain page. I turned the book, and I started to read down the words in this book. As I began to read, I felt like my own mind was speaking to me in this book. I felt like the secret that only I knew, the person on the other end of this labor of love, this like incredible book was speaking to me through years of writing, through the artwork that was designed in the book, through his own experiences, through his own place in his life, and the personal setup in his story, like his childhood, his schooling, his friendships, you know, like his personal experiences in the world. All of that was speaking back to me, and the shock of it as I started to read down the book grew more and more and more strong until I felt myself essentially kind of like breaching through this experience. And as I got right to the center of the book, I could no longer hold it anymore. And I ended up in the black space. I felt myself drop right through the floor in that basement. I was completely conscious. I was still in that expansive, allowing state of being, kind of like a surfer riding this infinite wave. I mean, that's essentially what Kundalini can feel like. If you just allow your boat to like rest on the current will very, very quickly take you to where your attention is. And at that moment, my attention was on the shock that someone could actually physically explain in words my own experience in this book that had been physically manifested and stabilized in reality for so long, for many, many years. God knows how long this thing had even been there for. Felt like I had gone through the pages, like physically speaking. And where I was dark. It was black, and I did not feel like I had a body. I could not really interpret any limbs. I couldn't interpret any kind of physicality to myself whatsoever. It was more like I was just like this energy, like this kind of like nebulous like formation. Not really anything but something at the same time. I kind of freaked out a little bit while I was down there because it was like I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what I did. I tried to like move myself because I felt like I was kind of just stuck there without any kind of like ability to do anything. I didn't know, I never heard anything about this beforehand. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just in that place. And like I said, this is not a dream. This is like as if you watching this movie, hearing my description of it suddenly, and then you went into this space. It was like that kind of experience. And when I finally managed to like wiggle a little bit of whatever I was, suddenly I started to kind of like fade back into my body, and I woke up right where I was. I thought maybe I had like a heart attack or something like that, but nothing like that has ever happened before or since. And it was literally the profundity in that moment that excited me so much that I literally managed to collapse the reality that I was living in and take myself to the black space. Now, if we go back to this idea about that powerful form of theater and just being on a black stage, is essentially just putting forward the emotions, the experience, and letting the audience's imagination fill that space is why it creates such a powerful experience, especially with a talented actor. When I was there, I never once thought the things I'm going to say to you right now. Since my discussions with Sarah, it's brought up these ideas. This whole reality is like that stage. This whole reality exists because we want it to. Every little thing you see, everything you interact with, your body, the history of this world, everything you experience, the entirety of all day, every day, even what happens in terms of your dream experiences are literally a manifestation creation that you are creating physically right now, as if you no longer remember that you're dreaming. When you're in the middle of a dream, you have no idea that you're asleep. Generally speaking, unless you train yourself to, or have some notion within the dream for whatever reason, most people will never ever really believe that they're asleep when they actually are. And this process of what we term awakening is exactly like that. It is starting to become lucid in the dream that is physical reality. And the power that you have in each and every single moment is literally the same power that I expressed and explained to myself, that you can stop this physical reality at any point, provided you recognize that someone out there maybe has the same notion that you do. Maybe you've had this experience before. Maybe you've had like a lucid dream and you know and understand the experience of what it feels like to be in touch with the creation you don't realize that you're in. Maybe you have that experience. Maybe you have that understanding in your life in some way, in some form, and you can relate to these words right now that I'm speaking to you. Maybe you can, because maybe you are awakening, like I am. I wanted to put this out there to explain this. I wanted to relate my experience so that you can use it as a permission slip to recognize the power that you have within yours, and that what you put out always comes back. My name is Summerwind. If you like these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. And please, if you have any similar experiences, feel free to share them in the space down below. I think the more we contribute our understanding of what life and reality actually is to each other, I think the better we grow a more stabilized and beautiful, blissful way of awakening. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.